Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with today, wrapping it up with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you have a song you'd like to submit for special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's comes at us from Andrew. My latest metal obsession for the last 2 years. I think these guys need more eyes. The conceptual album follows a couple characters and has heavy D&D, Magic the Gathering influences. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so that sounds interesting. The band is Summoning the Lich. This is off of the album United in Chaos. We're looking at Hymns of the Witches of the West. Let's dive into this and see what's going on. It took me a second, but I'm getting into the groove of it all. Yeah, so we cut out the bass, I think, from that section, and it led to a feeling a bit anemic, but when the bass came back in, it brought the punch with it. Very clean transition from one vocal style to the next. Really fun playfulness rhythmically here. Very clean. It's over. Okay. What was that? Like, not rhetorically. What was that? Um, my gut says mellow death, but I'm honestly not sure. I think the only reason I lean towards that is because I kind of enjoyed it, and usually mellow something is where I enjoy things at. There's a lot of cool things going on here. This is something I could definitely put on in the background while I'm working on other things. I don't know if I would necessarily put this on to listen intently to, but definitely for like doing chores, this would be perfect for that. It's so good in that regard. So, here's what we do here, right? I break things down. This is what we do. This is what I'm gonna do. First of all, I gotta talk about the vocals. To me, this is what separates them so much from their contemporaries. Is the fact that there's two of them and they are so playful in their usage of their duality. They do flip back and forth on occasion. We do have a more narrow one that is higher pitched, something closer to a black metal scream, and then we do have a growl, a death harsh, I suppose we can call it. It's wider, it's punchier, but it's also less contained. It kind of bleeds out a little bit, which is just typical for a lot of lower end harshes. So we have this one that cuts through a lot of the noise, and we have one that bleeds into a lot of the noise. And I say noise positively. There's just a lot of carnage going on musically. The riffs are coming, fast and heavy, and the guitar sounds are big and powerful as well. There's just a lot of compression and distortion coming out my ears from every direction. It is noise, positively noise. That's a good pun, Brian. Um, So yeah, we like I said, we have one that kind of bleeds into and becomes part of the noise, and one that cuts through all of it and is very sharp and very clear against what the rest of the band is doing. And it's really interesting to hear them bounce off of each other because sometimes it's super masterful. Really listen to these moments. There's a lot of intentionality between who gets to sing what line. And a lot of that pairs against what the band is doing. One of the clearest examples of this is when we had that bit of silence that swooped into our breakdown esque section as the lowest part of the track. It felt we brought in the growls. Makes sense. We're going for that low guttural feel. We want the world to rumble when we come in. You give it to the low vocals. They have the width and the power and the punch that the higher ones do not. But it also tends to blend in with what the rest of the band is doing as well. So you'll notice that when the band gets a bit more rhythmically fun and they put in some gaps in their ideas, you'll hear the growls pop in there, and the higher one will come in when there's more layers being done because they can punch through that where the growls can't. And so it makes it so that pretty much no matter who is singing at any point in time, regardless of what's going on in the music, it's always clear. I can't say that I heard syllables. Harsh vocals are still a bit indecipherable for me for the most part. There's definitely some bands, and I think a lot of this lies on the producers as well, where I can hear words pop out. I think one of the recent live streams, it might have been live stream 49 2 weeks ago. Um, 3 weeks ago, I guess that would have been. And I heard like a phrase, like a full sentence in the chorus. I was so proud of myself. But it's still an oddity for me. So I didn't pick up any words or syllables here, but there's a clearness in the mix where I can always hear the vocals, what they're doing, the sounds they're making, and the pitches, the perceived pitches that they're hitting. They're not ever drowned out by the music around them, even though our lower vocals could easily have that happen to them. There's a lot of intentionality of when the lower vocal comes in, when the higher vocal comes in. They have roles and placement against what everyone else is doing. And so we get this really fun back and forth in them. Not to mention, we also get what I love, layered harshes. We need more of that in metal. It's so rare, but honestly, one of the few things that metal can really bring to the table that other genres can't. We are beginning to hear a little bit of compression coming into other genres. Vocal compression. A lot of it is clean compression. I don't know if we're ever going to hit a point where pop music has growls in it, but we might by the year like 3275 or something. But something that I think metal has a unique placement in right here is not just one harsh vocalist, but two or three or four. There's harsh vocals all throughout metal, and yet they're so rarely allowed to sing with each other, where duets are so common in other genres. It really needs to be more common for two vocalists to show up in a metal band. Stop having a front person and have front people. And Summoning the Lich is killing it right here. I really hope that the vocal composition in this track is indicative of what they do, because it is 100% something I will be leaning into and expecting when I do dig into this album, because I am excited about it. Which is weird, but I don't know what it is about like melodic tech death. I don't even know if this is tech death, but it's fairly technical. It feels deathy and it's kind of melodic, so I'm tossing the three words together. I'm here for it. I really it's like I don't know, those three words in any combination work for me. I'll take melodic technical music, technical death music, melodic death music. Just they're always good. I combine them all together, and I'm here for it. So yeah, the vocals are just killing it. Musically, as far as our pitched instruments, our guitars and bass, um, they're just doing a lot. I can't say that I could really point towards any specific riff because a lot of it just flies at 100 miles per hour right past me, but that's sort of the gist of it too. It is energetic, it is just freeing. It's like having the power to fly put into music form. It's just such an energetic style of riffage where it's constantly moving, but the other cool thing is that they don't seem to constrain themselves into thinking that once they have a riff, it is the riff for the section. There's actually this really neat part. It's one of the only ones that I actually picked up on the pattern for. It was like a minute and a half into the track, 2 minutes into the track, and it was this really cool, like really fast gallop, like something like that, and then it's like silence or like a note was being held out and there was space, and that took up our first bar. And our second bar, we start the same way, but then we actually put a riff at the end of it that leads into our third bar idea. And so we've taken this single riff that any other band would have probably stopped on, right? You just chug on a note, have a little bit of silence, come back on the note, and create something genty out of that, right? Purely rhythmic, single note idea. Um, and no, they decided to use that as a basis for variation and continue to create a different version of it that would melodically lead into a different lick altogether that would also pull back into the beginning of the riff as a whole very well, very cleanly. It is just it's a beautiful showcasing of how, like I mentioned, they don't just write a riff and say, okay, we're just going to do this over and over. They write a riff and they say, how can we expand on this? How can we move away from it while still retaining its heart? How do we take this idea, move away from it, and come back? And how do we make it all still feel unified? And it's just this beautiful idea of variation and direction and momentum and flow that almost takes a melodic approach to rhythmic riff writing. Absolutely love it. You can hear it all over the place in this track. Every riff feels like it is constantly evolving and reversing back to its roots before evolving again. It feels so energetic. It feels oh man, it is just good. Yeah, it's just good. The drumming, I wish I paid a little bit more attention to. I'm not gonna lie, I was jamming out in a little bit of this. But the drumming is just solidly precise, which I expect from this type of music. Whether it's mellow death or tech death, both of those genres tend to have very tight, precise semi-melodic drumming styles, and I was not disappointed here. Like I said, there's nothing I can really point out to on that one. I wish I was paying a bit more attention to it, but just mm, solid drumming from start to finish. Same with the bass. There were a couple of moments that the bass shone through a little bit, and I was like, yeah, let's bring it. But a lot of the time, it just kind of felt like this low end presence. I couldn't really pick out any notes, but I could tell when it was gone. Like that one instance, I think it was the second verse. I honestly have no clue what the structure was to this. I mean, the track was just a whirlwind, but um, it was just like vocals, a little bit of drumming, and the guitars, and like you could just feel like something was missing, especially since we just had it. It was a very full moment, and it feels like it got a bit anemic, like we were missing a component to the whole thing, and it's because the bass dropped out for like 8 bars, and when it comes back in, it just punches right back, and it feels like we got back up to speed. Just oh man, this whole song is just energy incarnate. You listen to it, and it's better than coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I'm assuming, but a lot of people drink coffee to wake up in the morning. I think summoning the Lich would do the same thing. What else? What else? What else? I think that's about it. I mean, this is just a joy. Let's dig into some lyrics here. I'm gonna try to keep in mind that this is a conceptual album about following people in a fantasy campaign, fantasy style realm. Andrew had mentioned Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, so. And then, of course, we have a Lich person that is being summoned. A Lich person. We have a Lich that is being summoned, and there's some sort of like something. I know they're like related to necromancers or something. They deal with the undead. I don't know what in particular they are specific. Maybe they're an undead who deals with undead magic. That sounds possible. There's a lot of lyrics here. We just got done listening to Mouth of the Architect. 10 minutes with like 3 stanzas. Not much, and this was a third of the time with about 3 times as many lyrics. I don't know. I'm good. I don't mean to bring this up so often, but it really cracks me up when stuff like this happens. Such a huge difference between length and lyrical density. So this is a hymns of the witches of the West. So this is songs that witches would sing, particularly witches who live in the western part of the realm. A spell of wickedness casts blight upon the land. The townsmen fester painfully. The river runs with poison. Take heed and run. The deed is done. The village lost. They killed one of the coven's son, and now they pay the cost. So yeah, there's a coven of witches, and they killed the local village people. Killed one of them, and so a spell was cast to bring poison and plague down on the town. He screamed as he burned, and the children cheered his death. How black their hearts have turned, he uttered with his final breath. Upon the moonlit sky they ride, mourning with word that the high priestess' son had died. Unholy rituals send curses through the sky, enchant the village while they lie. And all that their spells touch is rotten. Take heed and bear this advice, or you will surely pay the price. Young masters, beware, never fall victim to the hymns of the witches of the West. Entangled by enchanted verse, you'll let them rip your still beating heart from your chest. Their evil never rests. So yeah, it showcases an example of these witches taking revenge, and then utilizes that as a jumping off point to hit our chorus, I think. Yes, I'm going to call it our chorus. We see it 2 more times. That says, beware of the witches and their hymns. If you ever get entangled by their verses, if you ever get, swept up in their songs, they will rip your heart from your chest, and their evil never rests. So they're just bad people, right? So, just beware them. Younglings were first to disappear. After complaining, they hear songs in their ear. Their bodies all return to draw their mother's tears. Tortured remains to rise your fear. You'll be one with the forgotten. Take heed and bear this advice, or you'll surely. Yeah, so here's another instance of them kidnapping children. A messenger was sent to offer up surrender, so the Grand Witch now descends to the village in the east. You took my child's life by fire on that day. I will not rest until you all can feel my pain. Your lives must end. Know while I bathe in the blood of your children, you sought the slaughter of my coven, my kind, we will not rest until we sever your bloodlines. And then we finish out with the final chorus. So yeah, this is just about the witches getting revenge for a loss of one of them, and showcases a couple of ways that they take that vengeance, including sending a messenger to the village to let them know that their days are numbered. It's very on the surface. It reads very much like a very straightforward poem of a story. In fact, if we took out the rhyme and the meter to all this, it would feel like a short story of sorts. We might have to flesh out some of the time skips in between all the stanzas, but otherwise, it's a very straightforward reading of it, which is very cool, because yesterday I watched Hocus Pocus 2, and that was about witches who also consume children, so it just kind of lines up with all that. For me, anyways. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Summoning the Lich's Hymns of the Witches of the West. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up with your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this, if you enjoyed it, anything you'd like to add on or correct me on, let me know. Above the comment section is a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel. You can find all the ways to support the channel and a link for Discord, as well as a lot of other things. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be looking at our penultimate themed track, as well as our final special selection for the week. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.